When you're the underdog, you have the most to prove and the least to lose. Whether it's music, film, or video games, whenever multiple talents exist under the same banner, someone's always prioritized. And in 2010s, a perfect example was Top Dog Entertainment, a label stacked with undeniable talent, but one artist would inevitably rise above the rest and dominate the spotlight. That same idea applies to video games. In the late 2000s, early 2010s, Rockstar Games was operating at an absolute peak. The studio had a stacked lineup, and GTA 4 redefining open world storytelling, Red Dead Redemption setting a new standard for emotional narrative, and LA Noir pushing facial animation and investigative gameplay forward. Rockstar was buying IPs, taking risks, and giving projects room to breathe. But with so many heavy hitters, not everything could sit in the spotlight. Some games received less marketing, some flew under the radar, and some, despite the passion poured into them, became overlooked. One of them games marked the end of a franchise Rockstar had published in the early 2000s and fully owned in the late 2000s. A return to gritty noir storytelling, once pioneered by a company called Remedy Entertainment, but now reimagined through Rockstar's cinematic lens. The result was something bold, brutal, and emotionally raw. A game that was excellent, yet forgotten. This is the story of that forgotten masterpiece. Welcome to episode 22 of the Rockstar Takeover. Today, we're heading into Brazil with Max Payne 3. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, allow me to introduce myself. I'm the Retro Phantom, and I create long-form retrospectives on video games that shaped our lives. We're slowly approaching the end of the year, and with that, the conclusion of the Rockstar Takeover as we know it. GTA 5 will be my final entry into the series, followed by a special end-of-the-year video dropping on the 31st as a thank you to everyone who tuned in and stuck around through the journey. Looking ahead to next year, we're diving into the Naughty Dog Takeover, Spyro Takeover, Street Fighter Takeover, Batman Takeover, and finally bringing the Hideo Kojima Chronicles to a close. Recently, we also surpassed 8,000 subscribers, and we're steadily marching towards 10,000. If you enjoy this kind of long-form content, hitting that subscribe button brings you along for the ride. Dropping a like helps push this video through the YouTube algorithm, especially for smaller channels like mine. And if you're feeling a little generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. Link is in the description. With that said, let's dive into this. If you're already up to date on my Max Payne videos, feel free to skip this recap. I'll give you a moment to do that now. Alright, let's dive in. Back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, as home computers became more accessible, a creative movement known as the demo scene began to explode, particularly across Europe. It was a subculture where programmers, artists, and musicians came together to push hardware to its limits, showing off their skills at events called demo parties. These gatherings weren't just showcases. They were competitions, driven by creativity, technical skill, and a shared passion for digital art. At one of these demo parties, a group of friends would come together with the idea of forming a game studio. That studio would eventually become Remedy Entertainment. In its early years, Remedy brought on a young designer named Petri Yarvalito, who began working on a top-down racing game called Death Rally. As development progressed, the team realized they needed help redefining the game's English writing. Yarvalito reached out to a close friend of his, Sam Lake. Sam Lake initially joined the project simply to help with the next, but it became clear that writing was his strength. He would soon become Remedy's lead writer, shaping the studio's creative identity moving forward. His first major project in that role would be Max Payne. The original Max Payne was critically acclaimed, praised for its noir storytelling, stylized presentation, and emotional weight. More importantly, it marked the beginning of a long-standing relationship between Remedy Entertainment and Rockstar Games, a partnership that would define and eventually redefine that franchise for years to come.
There were a lot of different ideas and concepts for kind of different games floating around. And one of those was a very kind of an early draft of what then became Max Payne. I think that the early concept was called Dark Justice. When we started working on Max Payne, it was bits over 10 guys in the very beginning, and we did have a budget, but it was very, very limited. So we had to kind of get creative to achieve what we were aiming for. So this was still kind of a garage band dreaming up stuff. One of the good examples for how we needed to get creative was that for cinematics we didn't have the resources, and so we decided to use graphic novels to tell the story and ended up using photos for the basis of those shots. And then we suddenly were in a situation that we need to cast all the characters in the game, and somehow it ended up being so that I was going to be Max Payne. Fast forward a couple of years later, and I'm seeing my face everywhere, kind of what was to be known as the constipated Krimis on the cover of the magazines, and the rest is history. With the rest of the cast, I just kind of went around friends and relatives and got them to play the parts. My mother ended up as the main villain, Nicole Horn, and my dad was the shady government official, and my brother was a gangster, and I even got the janitor of the apartment building I was staying at the time to play the Godfather. So it was good fun, really, really fun.
In 2001, Saku Lehtinen, our art director, and myself went down to London to do a demonstration of the game. Unfortunately, at that point in time, we couldn't really fly with proper airlines, so we had to fly with a budget airline, and we were hauling this big PC because no laptop would run the game at that point in time. And the computer got bashed off, and the graphics card fell off, and so forth. Unfortunately, we only realized this as we go into the big meeting in this executive area in downtown London. And I'm doing an impersonation to keep these people interested because we only have a limited time window there. So I'm virtually doing like sock puppets of what Max Payne is about and bullet time and so forth, and talking the spiel as Saku goes to work on the computer with his Leatherman. So he does a regular MacGyver on it and pulls it apart and reinstalls the graphics card. You learn to appreciate the comforts that you have now, that you can actually live in a proper hotel, and you can take proper flights as opposed to traveling on the tightest possible budget, carrying your own stuff through downtown London with a monitor on your back and so forth. The success of Max Payne, I think it took everybody by surprise. We knew that we had something good and something unique, but we had no idea how large Max Payne was going to be.
The huge success of what Max Payne became, it was really surreal. I have to say that to this day, it's a hard thing to understand that it really was such a big hit. And then after the first game, we were definitely kind of a real company at that time, and knew that we had a secure future. And it was an obvious thing to work on the sequel. And for that, the schedule was much tighter. But the company was growing, and we had more and more guys, over 20 at this point. And for Max Payne 2, the budget was already considerably higher. So with these kind of creative choices that we were forced to do with Max Payne 1, now we had an option to do them with actual professionals. So one area, for example, was the whole cast. We had to use friends and relatives in the first game, but here we were able to get professional actors for all the roles. I guess that from Max Payne, we took 3 things that were what Remedy does well. And one of them is technology. And we have had our own tech in all of our games. So it was a clear thing that we would be doing a new game engine and all the tools that we would be building the game on. And it's a very important part of what Remedy is. The 2 other things are that we want to tell stories. We knew that whatever we would be doing next, we would want to have a strong main character and a deep story that would be driving the game. And the third thing, I guess, is cinematic action. We want to use kind of stylized way of showing action in a movie-like way.
Now that we're all caught up, let's talk about Max Payne 3. The seeds for a third entry were planted as early as 2004, when fans learned that Max Payne 2 would not be the franchise's final curtain call. But when the door remained open for Max's return, it quietly closed for the studio that defined him. Max Payne 2 would be the last Max Payne game developed by Remedy Entertainment. For many fans, Max Payne 2 was even stronger than the original, boasting a more intimate story, sharper writing, and significantly improved visuals. Despite its critical praise, the game failed to match the commercial success of its predecessor. For years, this underperformance was seen as the reason the series vanished for nearly a decade. But that narrative isn't entirely accurate. As Sam Lake, the original writer of Max Payne, later explained, Remedy's departure was always part of the plan. After the first game came out, the IP rights was sold to Take-Two and Rockstar, and part of that deal was an agreement that we would create the sequel. So, with that understanding, it was a nice situation. We had a lot of passion towards Max Payne. It was wonderful to create that, and to take certain ideas from the first one and making a sequel is great fun in many ways. But at the same time, that was all with the understanding that this will be the final Max Payne game for us. And you could kind of go through that emotional process while working on it, saying goodbye. So from a creator's perspective, that really was a nice way to go. In other words, Remedy was never going to make Max Payne 3, regardless of how well the sequel sold. Looking at the story Remedy chose to tell, it makes sense. The fall of Max Payne is exactly that. A final reckoning. Nearly every major character across the series is dead by the end of Max Payne 2, leaving only Max himself standing amid the wreckage. Remedy was given full creative freedom to end the story on their terms, and that freedom came at a cost. Rights to the franchise. In exchange for selling the IP to Take-Two and Rockstar, Remedy was allowed to say goodbye. To close Max's story with intention, finality, and emotional weight, whatever came next will belong to someone else. And that raises the question, what happens when a character built on grief, noir, and personal tragedy is resurrected by a different creative voice nearly a decade later? Eventually, time would pass, and on March 23, 2009, Max Payne 3 was officially announced. Rockstar Watch broke the news, confirming what fans had been hearing whispers about for years. Back around 2004, Take-Two's then CEO, Jeffrey Lapin, confirmed that Max Payne 3 was coming. However, after many years and new Take-Two CEOs, most people hoped that Max Payne would live to see another game. Well, Max Payne fans rejoice. Rockstar has just announced that Max Payne 3 is coming this winter to the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and yes, you're reading this right, the PC. Now, I want you to remember something very important. This is a Rockstar game now. When you're a Rockstar game, delays are part of the experience. We've seen it before. Midnight Club took its time. LA Noire spent 7 years in development hell. And GTA 6, don't even get me started on GTA 6. If you've ever seen a Rockstar title into the pipeline, just assume that pipeline is going to need maintenance frequently. Winter would come and winter would go. And just like that, fans were left waiting once again. In June of 2010, Rockstar Watch delivered another update, this time with less encouraging news. Take-Two has announced today the financial results of the second quarter. In the results, there are some very sad news. Max Payne 3 has been pushed out of 2010 with no new ballpark release date mentioned. With another missed window, fans were once again left in the dark, waiting for any sign that Max Payne 3 was still alive. When Rockstar finally broke their silence, a new batch of details emerged, confirming what direction the game was taking. Fans learned that Max Payne 3 would take place 8 years after Max Payne 2. Max would be working in São Paulo, Brazil as a private security contractor. Rockstar was introducing major physics upgrades to the Euphoria physics engine previously seen in GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption, allowing characters to interact dynamically with the environment rather than relying on canned animations. James McAfee will return as Max Payne, once again providing his iconic gravelly voice along with motion capture and character modeling for a more realistic portrayal than ever before. Most importantly, there was still no release date. But for average fans, this information was more than enough. It was proof the game actually existed. That proof became even stronger when screenshots began to surface. In an IGN article at the time, it was reported, the last time we heard about Max Payne 3 was back in June 2010, when Rockstar Games' parent company Take-Two announced it was delaying the title indefinitely. Since then, Rockstar has been silent about the progress of this long-developed title. Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick wouldn't even mention the game during the company's quarterly earnings call. Today, though, 2 new screenshots of Max Payne 3 surfaced on Rockstar's Twitter account, confirming that, yes, the game is still coming along. And then, finally, the moment fans have been waiting for. A trailer for Max Payne 3 was released. And just like that, the internet was in a chokehold. After years of radio silence, delays, and doubt, Max Payne 3 was no longer a rumor. It was real. With the release of that trailer, fans could immediately tell that a serious amount of work had gone into developing Max Payne 3. Alongside the renewed excitement, Rockstar announced the game was targeting a March 2012 release window. Rockstar also made it clear that authenticity was a major priority. To capture the atmosphere of São Paulo, the studio conducted extensive on-the-ground research. Development teams visited the city multiple times, studying its culture, architecture, gangs, police forces, and weaponry. Every detail from uniforms to firearms was researched to ensure the world felt believable. The game's fictional UFE police unit closely resembles real Brazilian special forces such as BOPE, and Rockstar even encouraged fans to watch the 2007 Brazilian film Elite Squad to better understand the tone and intensity they were aiming for, particularly its brutal favela raid sequences and close-quarter shootouts. Some retailers went as far as bundling Max Payne 3 with the film and its sequel. In a November 2011 interview, Rockstar co-founder Dan Houser addressed why it took nearly 8 years for Max Payne 3 to materialize. Contrary to the public perception, Houser explained that Rockstar prefers to take time between projects before committing to sequels. With limited studios and multiple franchises in development, Max Payne 3 simply didn't enter production until the timing made sense. Houser also emphasized the importance of letting the previous game's reception, both excitement and disappointment, settle before deciding where to take the series next. Technically, Max Payne 3 was built on Rockstar's proprietary Rage engine, paired with the Euphoria's physics system, allowing for dynamic character reactions and environmental interactions. In February of 2012, Rockstar confirmed the PC version would support the DirectX 11 and stereoscopic 3D rendering. Due to file size limitations, the PC release shipped on 4 DVDs, the Xbox 360 version on 2 discs, while the PS3 version fit entirely snug on a Blu-ray disc. After years of delays, speculation, and silence, Remedy had officially passed the torch. Max Payne will finally release on May 15th, 2012, giving fans their first real glimpse at Max Payne's future under Rockstar's vision.
Max Payne is nothing without the classic rugged noir monologues.
They ain't gonna make this easy for us, are they?
But this time, Rockstar had a new challenge for the man behind Max. Part of Max is the voice, James McCaffrey, and he's back for Max Payne 3. Right?
Yeah, no, he's absolutely back, and we actually modeled his face.
We looked at James and thought, he actually is a good look for Max Payne, because we're not just capturing the actor's motion when we're doing the cutscenes, we're capturing their facial animation and their audio.
You stay in your office, lock yourself in.
It is great to have you back as Max.
Pleasure to be here.
So James, for this game, you didn't just do voiceover like the first two games. You actually, performed the role on a sound stage. Those performance capture sections were directed by Rod Edge from Rockstar. What was that like?
When I first started doing the voice, I just thought it was a great character and it had great dialogue. This has great character, great dialogue, great story, great locations. I'd arrived in São Paulo a few weeks before. Working with Rod gave me the confidence to just be his Max. He would sometimes act out the scene. If it was jumping off a balcony or 30 feet onto a mat.
30 feet off a mat? You were doing that kind of stuff?
I wouldn't do it until Rod did it, and I'm telling you, he did it.
So you were doing stunt work on the skit?
I was doing some of the stunt work. There was a whole team of stunt guys doing the harder stuff.
You didn't have to shave your head, though, like Max does in the game, right?
I almost did. I mean, they had the razor there and everything.
So that scene where he's actually shaving his head, that was actually you, like, on a sound stage?
In front of a sink with a razor.
Did you do the shoot dodge? Because you always see Max, like, jumping.
I had to do a few of those jumps.
This is like an action movie for you.
It was an action movie. I didn't do some crazy stuff.
What excites you guys about doing a shooter like this? The shooting genre is really competitive. What did you want to do here with Max Payne?
We wanted to give the player the ability to pretty much do anything they want to do in the environment while getting into these gunfights.
Tie into this sort of original inspiration for the Max games, which is the Hong Kong action stuff where guns are everywhere and you pick them up and you use them until you need them, and maybe instead of reloading a clip, you throw it away and you grab another one.
We had to really take a look at how we handled bullet time.
Bullet time is a central mechanic, central focus in the development, and it's a lot more than just sort of slowing down time.
Everything has to hold up in slow motion, whether it's how he fires the gun mechanisms, his coat flapping in the wind. Every little detail needed to be addressed.
And dual wield, of course, which is a big part of Max Payne, right?
Yeah, dual wield is back because magic pockets are gone. And so if you want to dual wield, you can't carry the rifle. So if you're running along with a rifle, you could have two handguns in your holsters. If you want to pull them both out, you'll chuck the rifle away and pull the handguns out.
We even have something called last man standing, which means that if you still have painkillers in your inventory and you're shot and killed, we give you the opportunity to shoot the person that shot you to come back to life.
Instant vengeance.
Instant vengeance.
And if you can kill him, you live to fight on a little bit longer.
You got some great action sequences at that nightclub level where it's like, you crash through, you go through the club, then you're on the rooftop, and you get in the helicopter. The enemies are coming in, you're moving.
Hanging off the bottom of the helicopter.
That's the ultimate action moment everyone wants, right? There's also a great sense of movement to this game. One of the challenges with any action game, especially in third person, is like creating the animations so you feel like there's action happening, but you're always in control.
We needed to have pixel perfect controls in order to make the shooting exciting. We wanted the player to have that control that you usually find in first person shooters.
You can shoot dodge any direction from whatever way you're running and you're facing, his feet will line up. And if you keep pegging a stick, he'll get up and scramble on in the direction that you were going while you're still able to shoot so that you never feel like you're out of control. If things are so heavy that you don't want to get up, you can just stay there on the ground and you can swing around 360 degrees and take out your foes from there.
Now you have cover in the game that Max can use. You've got, melee. You really have to plot out your strategy.
We really wanted this to be a game that lots of different people could play.
We wanted to have the player have as much control as possible. So I might shoot dodge out of cover. I might vault over the cover. I might sneak around the cover. So it's just an amazing amount of control for players.
Here's a quick spoiler alert as I'm about to tell the story behind Max Payne 3. Now, if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance this video to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. The story opens with Max Payne arriving back at his apartment in São Paulo. He finishes off what is left of his alcohol. Moments later, the game abruptly flashes forward in time. Max confronts a mutilated and dying Becker who desperately tries to escape. As Becker crawls away, Max coldly reflects on how he was used and how those responsible are now facing the consequences. He admits they were right about one thing. He no longer knows how to tell good from evil. From there, the game rewinds to the beginning. Max is now working as a private bodyguard for Rodrigo Branco, a wealthy real estate mogul, alongside fellow security operative Raul Passos. The two are stationed at a high-profile fundraising party attended by celebrities, politicians, and São Paulo elite. Max, already drinking on the job, looks over the city. Its glowing skyline contrasted sharply by the sprawling favelas below. At the party, Max observed the Branco family dynamic. Fabiana, Rodrigo's trophy wife, spends her time partying with Rodrigo's reckless younger brother Marcelo. Victor Branco, a local politician, arrives and is seen speaking privately with Becker before the two leave together. Passos is soon to join by his girlfriend Giovanna, while Max keeps watch, detached and uneasy. Things then quickly turn violent. Masked gunmen storm the party via elevator, murdering a bodyguard and kidnapping Rodrigo and Fabiano. As chaos erupts, Max and Passos split up to pursue the attackers. Max clears one of the floors alone, killing multiple gang members before hearing Fabiano scream from a nearby balcony. Security forces, including Becker, corner a kidnapper holding Fabiana hostage. Max slides down from the rooftop, killing the captor in dramatic fashion before crashing into the pool below. Fabiana is saved, but Max immediately leaves the scene to track down Rodrigo. He finds him inside a van, bound and panicked, as two gunmen attempt to execute him. Max intervenes just in time, killing both attackers and freeing Rodrigo. As the dust settles, heavily armed Ufe police arrive and begin executing wounded criminals on the spot, much to the frustration of a nearby detective. Becker argues with the detective over the Ufe brutal methods before leaving the scene, while the detective stays behind to tend to the injured. Later, Passos briefs Max on the situation, explaining who the detective is and expressing his distrust of the Ufe. Max brushes it off, uninterested in politics, corruption, or causes. For him, it's just another job.
So good. Hey, what could be better, huh? The good guys are reunited, and the Commando Sombra are dead.
I guess. So who's this guy?
I don't know. Some kind of cop. Different branch of the police. Not UFE, but normal cops. I don't know about this stuff, politics. Everywhere politics. Shit, Max, you look kind of beat up. Let's get this lot home, and then I'll get you home, too. Come on.
Following the events of the kidnapping, the next chapter opens with Max exactly where we expect him to be. Drunk, drugged, and spiraling. He downs pills, vomits into the sink, and collapses into bed, preparing himself for yet another job he barely cares about. 5 days after the kidnapping, Max and Passos are assigned to escort Marcelo, Fabiana, and Giovanna to a nightclub as part of Fabiana's routine. During the ride, the group drinks and casually thanks Max for saving them earlier, while Giovanna brings up rumors of people going missing in the favelas, a detail Max barely acknowledges. Paso stays behind in the helicopter while Max escorts them inside. They arrive at the club and are welcomed by the manager, making small talk as they head up the elevator to the main floor. Fabiana and Giovanna immediately hit the dance floor, while Max accompanies Marcelo to the bar. Marcelo quickly becomes irritated when he discovers his VIP seat has been taken by Claudio, a famous football star. Instead of causing a scene, Marcelo drinks and quietly insults him. Max, openly halting the environment, the music, and the people, drinks to numb himself further. Then chaos erupts. The same criminal gang from the earlier kidnapping storms the club, opening fire on civilians. Claudio attempts to intervene and is shot dead on the spot. Max responds instantly, pushing through the chaos and killing multiple attackers as patrons scatter in panic. When Max attempts to pursue the kidnappers, he finds one exit locked. The gang leader orders his men to flank Max through the bar, but Max anticipates the move and wipes them out cleanly. Taking an alternate route, Max fights his way through the club's corridors, passing terrified guests and a wounded manager. He contacts Passos, warning him of the situation, and orders the manager to lock down the club to prevent kidnappers from escaping. Max clears the lounge, then pushes through the kitchen, eliminating more gang members along the way. Eventually, Max reaches the restaurant area, where he spots the gang leader with Fabriana and Giovanna nearby. The leader orders reinforcements to slow Max down, but they quickly are neutralized. Fabriana and Giovanna are forced into an elevator with bulletproof glass, rendering Max unable to stop them directly. Thinking fast, Max uses a window lift near the balcony, ascending towards the rooftop. As he climbs, the gang's helicopter opens fire, filling the area with bullets. Max barely survives, pulling himself onto the roof just as he's cornered by more gunmen. At the last moment, Passos arrives in his helicopter, and with Marcelo's help, Max climbs aboard. They pursue kidnappers only to see them escape by helicopter, with Fabriana still hostage. Giovanna, however, manages to break free and flee across rooftops. Max urges Passos to chase the kidnappers, but Passos prioritizes saving Giovanna instead. He orders Max to grab a rifle and provide cover as Giovanna runs for her life. Max picks off every gangster chasing her. She eventually reaches safety, but the danger isn't over yet. The helipad is swarming with armed criminals who attempt to shoot down Passos' helicopter using RPGs. Missiles streak towards them as Max clings to the helicopter, barely hanging on. Despite the chaos, Max manages to destroy the attackers and neutralize the threat, securing Giovanna and escaping the area.
Giovanna! Giovanna!
Max! Over here! What's happening? Where were you?
Are you all right?
What, do I look all right?
Don't worry, we're gonna get you out of here.
Passos, where is he? Is he okay?
Had to make a quick detour. He's fine. He's right there.
Oh my God. It's Raul!
Giovanna!
Raul!
What the hell are you doing?
Giovanna! Hey! No, nothing. Go.
Seems like I wasn't the only guy around here who had taken his eye off the ball.
Are you okay?
My weakness was the drink. Passos was the sister. Things were turning pretty ugly in this town. The boss's girl was gone, and part of me wished I was too.
Back at his apartment, Max drinks even harder, spiraling further after failing to save Fabriana. Meanwhile, the Bronco family and their security team gather at Fabriana Bronco's estate to discuss the ransom demand made by Commando Sombra. With no better options, they agree to pay. The exchange is set at the stadium, and Max and Passos arrive by helicopter with the ransom, $3 million, meeting the commando at gunpoint. The deal barely begins before everything goes wrong. An unknown sniper suddenly opens fire, killing several gang members and wounding Max in the arm. Under heavy fire, Max and Passos retreat into the stadium's underground tunnels to escape the sniper. They eventually reach an infirmary, where Max downs painkillers and Passos hastily bandages his wounds. Despite the chaos, their objective remains the same: protect the man carrying the money. If he dies, Fabriana dies with him. As panic spreads, Max and Passos either fight or evade the now disorganized commando. They encounter a heavily wounded gangster, and Passos attempts to interrogate him about the sniper, but the man bleeds out before he can talk. Moments later, more Commando Sombra members arrive, forcing Max and Passos to fight their way onward. When they regroup upstairs, they discover something worse. A second group has entered the stadium. This new faction is better armed, more disciplined, and actively hunting both the Commando Sombra and the money carrier. It quickly becomes clear that this is a completely different operation. Realizing the sniper's controlling the situation, Max and Passos push towards the commentary box where the shooter is positioned, fighting through or avoiding the new group along the way. They spot the money carrier fleeing while being pushed by these heavily armed attackers. Passos stays behind to provide sniper cover, while Max heads down into the stadium to eliminate the men chasing him. Max battles his way through the stands and corridors, eventually taking out another sniper. From there, he provides cover for Passos, who has run out of ammunition and is trying to escape to safety. Max then attempts to chase the money carrier himself while Passos heads back to the helicopter, but the stadium isn't done with him yet. A third sniper opens fire from the IT tower, forcing Max to retreat back inside. He reaches the security room and uses the surveillance cameras to track what is happening outside. Through the monitors, Max overhears Passos confronting the truth. The new group are paramilitaries, ex-cops working for a right-wing organization. The money carrier is captured, and under pressure, he reveals that Fabriana is being held at a hideout near the river, begging for his life as the paramilitaries close in.
I got the best. I know. You know how to make an entrance, bro. Now let's get the hell out of here.
Deixa pra lá. A gente tá sendo pago pra pegar o dinheiro. Não aqueles dois.
Tá bom.
At least we know where she is.
Yeah. Fantastic. Another good day's work.
Trouble seems to find us, Max.
As Max and Passos escape the stadium, Max drifts back into a flashback, recalling the night he first met Passos. At the time, Max had been spiraling for years, drinking heavily and living off painkillers after leaving the police force. One night, he found himself in a bar in Hoboken, New Jersey, where he crossed paths with Tony DeMarco, the spoiled son of powerful mobster Anthony DeMarco. Tony and his friends immediately harassed Max for being an ex-cop, mocking him and looking for a fight. Max, never the one to back down, fires back with insults aimed directly at Tony's family. Enraged, Tony threatens Max, demanding an apology or promising to have him eliminated. Before things can escalate further, a stranger bursts into the bar, pulls a gun on Tony, and forces him and his crew to leave. Tony storms out, swearing revenge. The stranger introduces himself as Raul Passos, a former acquaintance from the police academy. He offers Max a security job, but Max refuses, unwilling to commit to anything. Passos still buys him a drink, and soon the two begin drinking alongside Marty, the bartender, and a woman at the bar, briefly finding a moment to escape. That moment doesn't last. Tony and his men return, armed and ready for blood. An argument breaks out, and when Tony strikes the woman, Max instinctively reacts. He grabs a pistol Tony left behind and shoots him in the heart, eliminating him instantly. The bar erupts into chaos. A gunfight breaks out as Max and Passos fight their way through Tony's hired muscle, battling through the back of the bar to escape the gangsters closing in around them.
You knew your way around these parts.
Let's just get over there.
Yeah? Think you need a hand?
No, do you? Let's go, amigo.
You like that?
Should be a bit quieter in here.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I can see why you'd want to leave this place, Max. It's real charming.
Isn't it?
So look, I got some friends in Queens. We can stay there for a few days.
Queens.
Want a job yet, Max?
Max continues to search for Fabiana Branco, tracking her to the docks, an area crawling with Commando Sombra officers. As he pushes deeper into the area, Max eventually spots Fabiana being escorted through the chaos by CS troopers. The pursuit leads Max to the waterfront, where he witnesses Fabiana being loaded onto a boat full of Commando Sombra, with Serrano himself at the helm. Just as it looks like Max is about to lose her again, Passos arrives in a boat, and the two launch into a high-speed chase across the water. Passos at the controls, Max manning a light machine gun. The chaos quickly turns brutal. A grenade thrown by a CS trooper temporarily disables Passos' boat, forcing him to stop and make repairs while Max fends off attackers from all sides. Once the engine is back online, they resume the pursuit, taking risky shortcuts in an attempt to catch up. Refusing to give up, Passos floors it, launching the boat up a ramp and straight through the wooden warehouse. As they burst through, Max switches to a Desert Eagle, picking off Commando Sombra members mid-pursuit. The momentum, it doesn't last. The boat crashes back into the water, the engine fails, and the chase comes to an abrupt end. Once again, Fabiana slips through Max's fingers, leaving him no closer to saving her than before.
Passos! Try it, man! Shit.
Fabiana had slipped through my fingers for a second time. Another habit I didn't want or need.
It's close. We almost had her. Damn.
I don't think we ever had much of a chance. No one told us they had an entire goddamn army.
I don't think anybody knew. Crazy shit.
Yeah. It's all crazy, pal. Non-stop insanity. Thought I left all this shit behind. Easy gig, you said. What a fool I was to get involved in this madness.
The next chapter opens with Passos breaking into Max's unlocked apartment. Max is slumped over a table, barely conscious, surrounded by the usual evidence of heavy drinking and drug abuse. Passos wakes him and tells him their employer, Rodrigo Branco, wants to see them immediately. At Branco headquarters, Max and Passos are brought into Rodrigo's office, where tensions are already running high. Rodrigo is visibly anxious, joined by Marcelo Branco, Victor Branco, and Armando Becker. Furious over Fabiana's continued disappearance, Rodrigo lashes out, dismissing Max and Passos as a freaking pair of clowns. Passos responds sincerely, reminding him that they've risked their lives repeatedly trying to save her. Rodrigo calms down slightly, explaining that all he wants now is to understand what really happened and why. Victor attempts to reassure him, referencing their father's embarrassing, humiliating death, but Rodrigo brushes it off. This situation is far worse. Becker then steps in, claiming he can guarantee Fabiana's rescue, but only if Rodrigo does exactly what he asks. Rodrigo cautiously replies with maybe. Moments later, Victor orders Marcelo, Passos, and Becker to the helicopter. Victor escorts them out, leaving only Rodrigo and Max behind. Alone, Becker briefly tries to convince Rodrigo, partially in Portuguese, that Max and Passos are amateurs and should be replaced with professional security. Rodrigo dismisses them. As Becker leaves, Rodrigo speaks quietly with Max, lamenting how they once had so many plans. Max replies simply that they all. Shortly after, Detective Da Silva attempts to contact Rodrigo through his security, likely to warn him that Ufe may be involved in Fabiana's kidnapping, but Rodrigo angrily dismisses him as just another bent cop. Then, the alarms go off. Security footage reveals a heavily armed militia storming the building through the main entrance. Rodrigo retreats to his office to prepare for lockdown, while Max is forced to face the attackers head-on. With help from the IT technician, Max works to restore the security systems, which have been sabotaged. He orders the secretary and IT worker to take cover, pulls a micro 9mm from his jacket, and charges into the building. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Max tears through the preliminary forces room by room. Once the building is fully locked down, Max returns to Rodrigo's office only to find Rodrigo dead, executed with a single gunshot at the back of the head, eerily mirroring Max's own slumped position earlier in the chapter. Shaken, Max grabs a bottle from Rodrigo's desk and accidentally knocks over a framed photo of Fabiana, shattering it. As he picks up the broken glass, he notices something far worse, a remote explosive wired beneath the desk. Realizing the danger, Max makes a desperate attempt to escape via the office balcony, the same one Rodrigo had shouted from earlier. But the bomb detonates before he can get clear. The explosion throws Max from the railing, knocking him unconscious as the building erupts in flames and begins to collapse. When Max regains consciousness, the headquarters are in ruins. He fights through a few remaining soldiers, discovering that the IT technician has been eliminated. Near the exit, Max encounters a mortally wounded preliminary, too injured to fight back. Max interrogates him, demanding to know why they attacked Rodrigo. The soldier replies coldly they weren't there for Rodrigo, they were there for Max. According to the dying man, Max took out too many of them, and the militia wanted revenge. When Max presses Fabiana's location, the soldier finally breaks, revealing that she's being held by Commando Sombra in the hills, a claim later confirmed by De Silva. Max drags the dying soldier outside the building, leaves him behind, and walks away, bruised, burned, and closer to the truth than ever before.
Front to kill Rodrigo.
Following Rodrigo Branco's death and the destruction of his office building, Max sinks even deeper into despair. He reflects on what he's become, describing himself as a red-leathered, gray-haired mess, realizing he can't continue like this. Max makes a rare decision to change course. He cuts himself off from alcohol, shaves his head as a form of disguise, and heads straight into the Nova Esperanza favela, determined to find Fabiana once and for all. At the entrance to the favela, Max calls Victor Branco, briefly speaking with his younger brother and laying out everything he's learned about Fabiana's whereabouts. Once inside, Max is followed by a young boy who claims to know where Fabiana is being held. Max follows him to a nearby party, but as he tries to leave, he's confronted by Tropa Z gang members. They hold him at gunpoint, rob him, and dump him deeper into the slums. Max continues pushing through the favela until he stumbles onto a strip club. Inside, he asks a bartender for a drink and the location of a phone, only to realize he's completely out of money. That's when Detective De Silva appears. De Silva fills Max in on the bigger picture, more details about Commando Sombra, the Cracha Preto leadership, and Victor Branco's deeper involvement in the conspiracy.
Come on, try to dry out a bit. Just a soda, please.
Quero te considerar. Guaraná pra ele, só pra mim. Bem gelado. Interesting haircut, by the way. Meant to tell you that.
Yeah, well,
Wilson da Silva. Very good to meet you.
nice to meet you, I think.
Although you'll forgive me if I promise never to employ you as my bodyguard. You did a great job watching after Rodrigo Branco.
Fuck you.
You were set up.
Bet your ass I was.
Now, let me ask you something. Have you ever seen this guy? Sejano.
Yep, he's a real sweetheart.
Yeah, you sure put his gang out of business. But don't worry, those guys, they're a small fry. This is the guy I'm interested in. Neves. And this is his little buddy here. Mio Heger. They work for this vigilante group, Cracha Preto.
Yeah, I know him.
Well, they're very popular with right-wing politicians, like Victor Branco. Now, you see, many years ago, he helped clear some villages on a bit of land Rodrigo Branco wanted to develop.
Rodrigo Branco?
Yes, he did some very bad things. Anyway, have you ever seen this guy?
Maybe at the stadium.
I knew you were involved in that business. You know, I wanted to investigate that, but I got an order to blame it on some local street kids instead. Tell me, what happened there?
Nothing. We simply went to hand over some cash to this guy's clowns for a ransom exchange when this guy's clowns jumped us and they shot everybody.
Apart from you and your boy Passos.
That's right. But we had to shoot our way out of there.
They let you go. It's okay, it's a little weird right now. But I know that Victor Branco is involved in all this. I just don't know how or why. And I know that the UFE are involved in all this as well, but I just don't know how or why. And you know what's gonna happen? The moment is gonna come along when I put all these pieces together, and at that moment, someone is gonna come along and put a bullet in my head. Anyway, listen. I think you might want this.
Thank you. I'll need it.
And if it's Fabiana Branco you've come looking for, I think she's up the hill.
So why don't you just go get her?
I don't know. I'm a cop. I mean, I'll fight corruption. I'll stand up to the rich and dumb, but if I go up that hill right now, I'll be dead in 3 minutes or less. Maybe you too, Max. You're in the jungle now.
So it appears.
If you survive the next hour, let's speak. You helped me. And I'm gonna do what I can to help you. Good luck!
As Da Silva leaves, he hands Max a 1911 pistol, promising help only if Max survives long enough to earn it. Tension immediately erupts when a Tropa Z member harasses Max. Max warns him to back off, threatening that anyone who tries to take his gun will be dead wrong. The warning is ignored. A gunfight breaks out, and Max eliminates the attacker along with several members as the strip club descends into chaos, including the bartender himself. Max fights his way through the gang members, eventually locating their hideout. He searches for evidence, then destroys the operation completely. Pushing further, Max clashes with Commando Sombra forces and finally reaches their headquarters. Inside, Max finds Serrano, the ruthless Commando Sombra leader, holding Fabiana, Giovanna Tavers, and Marcelo Branco hostage. Max storms in, ordering everyone to drop their weapons, but instead, the gang turns their guns on him, disarming him completely. Max pleads with Serrano, insisting there's no need to kill anyone. Serrano responds calmly with a single word, okay. He then executes Fabiano with one shot to the head. Giovanna and Marcelo scream in horror as Marcelo lunges at Serrano, only to be shot in the leg. Moments later, an explosion rocks the building. UFE forces have launched an assault amid the chaos. Commando Sombra escapes with Giovanna and Marcelo as hostages. Max is held at gunpoint, forced to watch Fabiana's lifeless body. As the weight of his failure sets in, Max drifts into another flashback of his past, this time a visit to the cemetery, where loss has always followed him.
We'd only been married a short time. By now, she had been dead longer than I knew her. I still hadn't really forgiven myself for the Mona business, but I knew that was just grief. The insanity that comes with losing the life you had built. Michelle, I missed her with every part of my being. I hated the world for not killing me with her, and I hated myself for allowing this to happen to her and our little girl.
Moments after Passos leaves, 3 DeMarco assassins approach. One asks a simple question if he is Max Payne. Before he can answer the question, they open fire. Max dives behind his family tombstone for cover and fights his way down the cemetery hill to regroup with Passos. As they escape through the gate, they hear a car speeding directly towards them. Max takes aim, eliminates the driver, and the car smashes through the gate, collapsing it behind them. Pushing deeper into the cemetery, Max and Passos encounter more DeMarco soldiers, one armed with a grenade launcher. After dealing with them, the two move through another gate and spot a group of parked cars. DeMarco thugs argue on how split the bounty is on Max's head. The argument ends abruptly when Passos sneaks up and shoots one of them, triggering a firefight. Max attacks from above, wiping out the remaining men. During the chaos, Passos splits and is captured. Max hears radio chatter from one of the cars, learning that Passos has been taken, but that his captors don't realize who he is. Fighting his way forward, Max finds Passos held at gunpoint by a confused DeMarco goon. When the man realizes the real Max Payne has arrived, he orders Passos executed. Max shoots first. More DeMarco soldiers swarm the area, but Max and Passos fight their way through together. They soon encounter Greg, a terrified graveyard worker caught in the middle of the carnage. As Passos tries to calm him down, a sniper hidden from a mausoleum shoots Greg in the back of the head. Max and Passos advance under fire, using tombstones for cover. Passos draws the sniper's attention while Max flanks the mausoleum, killing several DeMarco gunmen as they pour out. Max eliminates the sniper, but inside the building, the two are ambushed, disarmed, and captured. They're dragged before Anthony DeMarco, the head of the DeMarco crime family. Anthony berates Max for killing his son. Max apologizes for the loss, and Passos offers his condolences, but bluntly states that Tony started the fight and got himself killed. Enraged, Anthony strikes Passos with a shovel, hurls racial slurs at him, and orders Max to dig graves for the both of them. Overcome by emotion, Anthony walks away, leaving Max and Passos guarded at gunpoint. As Max digs, he throws dirt into the guard's face, smashes another with a shovel, and grabs a weapon. Passos disarms the third guard, eliminating him as they break free. The two battle their way through more DeMarco soldiers, pushing through a morgue and upstairs into a church. Inside, they're ambushed once again. A shotgun-wielding thug fires from above the pews, forcing Max to flank him from the upper level. Armed with an automatic shotgun and holding the high ground, Max wipes out the remaining attackers, threatening Passos below. Victorious, Max and Passos find an office with a landline. Passos uses the phone to call for backup, arranging their escape from Jersey.
Hey, find that phone. Make a call. There's gotta be a landline in that office, man. I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, at least for a little while.
Let me just call somebody, get a little help, and we'll get out of here. Hey, it's me. Look, we really need to get out of New Jersey. Yeah, things are heating up. We got like half the New Jersey mob after us. And a cemetery in Hoboken.
In the aftermath of Fabriana's execution, Max is completely hollowed out. He's failed again, and the weight of that failure crushes him. As Commando Sombra's thug curses at him, Max uses a moment of distraction to his advantage. He tricks the man into looking away, violently disarms him, knocks him unconscious, and stumbles out of the hideout, broken, angry, and running on pure instinct. Outside, Max discovers that the UFE has launched a massive raid on the Nova Esperanza favela. As he moves through the slums, Max witnesses the true nature of the operation. UFE officers executing residents, kidnapping civilians, and threatening and treating favela like a war zone rather than a community. Max soon clashes with UFE troops in a brief but intense firefight before slipping past patrols and continuing deeper into the neighborhood. His luck, it doesn't last. While hiding in the favela, Max is ambushed by two gang members armed with machetes. They rob him of his remaining weapons and flee, only to be brutally run down and killed moments later by an UFE armed personnel carrier. With his original path blocked, Max is forced to find another way forward. Moving stealthily through the slums, Max eventually stumbles upon Giovanna and Marcello, who is still suffering from the gunshot wound Serrano gave him earlier. The two are being treated by UFE officers. As Max observes from a distance, he uncovers something far worse. The UFE and Quattro Preto are working together, running an organ harvesting operation. The deal is overseen by Mila Reggio, the second in command of the Quattro Preto alongside Bachmeyer. After the exchange, Max follows Reggio to the location where Giovanna and Marcello are being held. In a moment of pure horror, Reggio orders one of his men to burn Marcello alive. Max charges in, knocking the executioner unconscious before confronting Reggio directly. Reggio draws his machete, and the two engage in a brutal fight. Max eventually gains the upper hand, disarming him, slamming him to the ground, and driving the machete into his neck, taking him out officially. But the victory, it means nothing. Max and Giovanna can only watch helplessly as Marcello burns to death, arriving too late to save him. As the flames die down, the two are forced into hiding when Alvaro Nieves, the leader of the Croce Preto, arrives and discovers Reggio's body, realizing someone is systematically dismantling his operation.
Why did they do that to Marcello?
It's a legendary gang way of killing people.
These are no ordinary street gang.
I guess they want people to think they are. With this, they can justify the killings of today and the people they took.
Shh. Quem fez isso?
Foi americano.
Foi? Foi?
He's blaming you for the death of his friend.
Porra de americano.
Coisa morre, porra.
Caralho. Contra ele. Mata ele.
Pode deixar, eu mato.
The next chapter opens with Giovanna speaking to Raul Passos on a public phone, while Max keeps watch. As he waits, Max pulls off his ruined shirt, torn and bloodied from sliding across rooftops in the previous chapter. When Giovanna finishes the call, she tells Max that help is coming, but not immediately. She then notices a suspicious cop watching her, making it clear that blending into the crowded streets is no longer safe. With nowhere secure to hide, Max and Giovanna begin moving from place to place, eventually finding temporary cover in a bus junkyard. By the time they arrive, Giovanna is overwhelmed, vomiting repeatedly before finally admitting the truth. She's pregnant with Passos' child. Any chance of laying low disappears when armed gangs begin hunting them. Max takes to the offense, wiping out the attackers across the junkyard. A cutscene reveals snipers positioned on a rooftop nearby, triggering Giovanna's anxiety as she panics, calling the situation insane. Max tries to reassure her, insisting Passos will arrive any minute now, but she refuses to stay still, believing movement is their only chance. When gameplay resumes, Max is forced to eliminate the snipers. Giovanna's frantic movement occasionally distracts them, giving Max a brief window to close the distance and take them out with standard weapons. Once the snipers are dealt with, the two push onward towards a nearby gas station. They're immediately ambushed by the forces. Giovanna hides while Max clears the area, then rejoins her as she lowers a ladder to help him move forward. Moments later, another ambush erupts. Max orders Giovanna to stay down and leaps onto a hanging chain, gunning down enemies as he's lowered into the middle of the fight. The chaos continues through the garage and car wash bay, where Max fights more attackers. Giovanna is pursued by two Croce Preto members across collapsing platforms. Max saves her by shooting the platform out from under them, sending both men to their deaths. Reinforcements arrive but are quickly cut down. Giovanna lowers a stairway switch, allowing Max to regroup with her. As they move deeper, Giovanna warns Max that someone's down there. Max clears out another group of hiding paramilitaries before Giovanna catches up, emotionally unraveling and yelling in disbelief about the madness unfolding around them. Ignoring the panic, Max pushes them forward. They break into a nearby building through a window. After a brief argument over who's supposed to go in first, inside, Giovanna hides in the kitchen while Max storms an office, killing everyone inside. As Giovanna opens the door, a Croce Preto soldier kicks it and nearly kills her, until Max dives in with bullet time, saving her at the last second. Outside again, Max questions Giovanna about her past, asking if she's ever killed anyone. Her answer is always no. With enemies closing in, they climb into an empty bus. Max bluntly tells her, "It's drive or shoot, sister." Giovanna panics behind the wheel, crashing through the favela streets as Max defends the bus from attackers. The chase ends violently when Giovanna crashes the bus, knocking both of them unconscious. When they come to, Max tells Giovanna to climb the rooftop and signal Passos, instructing her to leave without him once help arrives. Trapped inside the wrecked bus, Max grabs a MD-97 LMG and single-handedly wipes out a small army of soldiers hunting him down. With no enemies left alive, Passos and Giovanna escape, leaving Max behind to find his own way out. Detective Wilson Da Silva arrives and picks Max up as they drive towards a parking garage. Da Silva casually asks Max about Panama, triggering another flashback, this time to Max's second day on the job.
I didn't know what to say. I had been so loaded in Panama, I could scarcely remember my own name. I know things had got real heavy. Panama had been my second job with Passos.
Hey, Max, come on.
The first had been easy, money for banging waitresses at some fancy wedding in the Caribbean. This seemed like another easy gig. It was the middle of the day, and like any self-respecting idiot, I was half cut.
No, son, nothing like doing some good blows, some good friends on a boat. Daphne! Come here, I love this one.
Marcello, you're going to be the death of me. Alfredo
Sure beats New Jersey, huh, Max?
Some ways.
Hey, come on, it's awesome.
Everybody's drunk and tanned, listening to house music. Most of them have plastic surgery, and they're all doing blow. I guess it is kind of like Jersey, huh?
Very funny, Max. Hey, Saud.
I gotta quit drinking so much. I give myself serious liver damage.
Yeah, big deal. You can always get a new one. Relax.
I hope you're not drinking on the job, gentlemen. Kidding, I hope you are. Just stay off the yayo, I don't have enough to share. I'm kidding again. Oh, Mikey. Even though we just met, I feel like we are good friends, you know? I feel like safe with you guys. Know that, like real safe.
That's great.
Yeah, and I love New York. The East Hamptons, do you know it?
Not really. I spent my honeymoon in Montauk.
Oh, where's that?
It's just down the road.
Whatever. Last time I was there, I got so wasted, I nearly shit myself. I didn't know you were married.
Yeah, well, my wife passed away.
Good. Not good. Bad. Real bad. But good because now I can get you laid a lot. It is great to be single, hey? I love a woman. She's with another and she doesn't want to know it. Fuck her. I mean, could you believe that shit?
Hey.
Excuse me, I'm going to go to speak to Felipe. Felipe! You crazy crackhead! Lay off the yayo, hey! Passos, walk with me. Yeah. What's the deal with this guy, eh? He's kind of stuck up. He's a good guy. Yeah, sure, tá bom, but have him smile a bit more, you know? Because life is good! Where's the truck?
It's coming. Hey, soon.
Passos. I gotta go lay down.
Okay.
The yacht is suddenly under attack by armed pirates, forcing Max to fight his way through the ship to reach Passos and Marcelo. A chaotic firefight erupts across the decks as Max cuts through the attackers, moving room to room amid the sound of gunfire and panic screams. As the battle continues, Max discovers that Passos and Marcelo are preparing to escape, seemingly leaving Max behind to deal with the attackers alone. During the chaos, Max learns that Daphne Bernstein, a friend of Marcelo, is still somewhere on the yacht. When Max brings this up, Passo hesitates, then decides to help Max search for her. During the pursuit, Max spots one of the pirates escaping on a zip line. Max follows, catches up to him mid-descent, knocks him out, and takes his weapon. While riding the zip line himself, Max picks off additional pirates before finishing off the remaining attackers. When the gunfire finally stops, Max searches for survivors, only to find that everyone else is already gone, victims of the firefight that tore through the yacht. Passos eventually arrives, breaks his silence, remarking that Marcelo won't take the news of Daphne's death well, a quiet moment that underscores how collateral damage seems to follow Max everywhere he goes.
I should have jumped in that goddamn canal myself and swum my way back to New York.
After this, Max finally remembers what happened in Panama and explains it to De Silva, revealing that the smuggling operation attracted the attention of the AUP. De Silva theorizes that the cargo wasn't drugs or weapons, but dirty money, cash being funneled into Panama to be laundered. Max questions why that would be necessary, given how wealthy the Broncos already were. De Silva explains the real motive. Rodrigo, the eldest brother, tightly controlled the family fortune and was funding Victor's political campaign. Evidence from Rodrigo's office shows he was preparing to cut Victor off financially. With Rodrigo dead, Victor stood to gain not only the family wealth, but also public sympathy following his brother's murder, making him politically untouchable. Max presses De Silva about the other players in the conspiracy, Marcelo, Passos, and himself. De Silva dismisses Marcelo as a reckless idiot, likely bribed or manipulated into helping Victor destabilize Rodrigo, possibly even facilitating Fabriana's kidnapping. As for Passos, De Silva believes he was a failed cop in both New York and São Paulo and could have been bribed, but ultimately concludes Passos was caught in the crossfire of a family power struggle. Then De Silva delivers with the hardest truth of all. Max was the fall guy, the perfect scapegoat for Victor. Max outright rejects the idea, refusing to believe he's been played to that extent. With little time to argue, De Silva sends Max on another job. A transport van carrying prisoners from Nova Esperanza was never officially booked. Max immediately realizes it must be connected to the deal between the Cracha Preto and the Ufe. De Silva takes Max to the abandoned Imperial Palace Hotel, where the van was last seen. Reluctantly accepting the mission, Max infiltrates through the basement, tying something close to stealth, something very unlike him. Max rigs a bottle to his pistol as a makeshift suppressor. As he moves deeper, he begins to accept that De Silva may be right. He's been used since the moment Passos hired him. Inside, Max witnesses two Cracha Preto soldiers burning corpses in blood-soaked trash bags. He discovers Ufe ammo crates, confirming their involvement as weapon suppliers for the death squads. Using a maintenance elevator, Max tracks the soldiers through the hotel, taking them out and uncovering more evidence as he goes on. In one room, Max learns the horrifying truth. He, Passos, and De Silva are all marked targets. Pushing forward, Max reaches a storage area and frees prisoners being held by the Cracha Preto. He even encounters Serrano, beaten and broken from torture. Despite everything, Max lets him go. Climbing through an abandoned elevator shaft, Max reaches the hotel recreational areas and continues fighting his way upward. In the kitchen, he finds Dr. Arthur Fisher, actively harvesting organs from victims. Fisher desperately pleads for his life, Moments later, Serrano arrives and is visibly horrified by what he sees. Max silently walks away, allowing Serrano to execute the doctor himself. Max reaches the demolition area and discovers a Crotcho Praeto's weapon stockpile. He arms himself with their gear and plants seafloor explosives, determined to erase the operation completely. On the rooftop, Max confronts Nieves, accusing him of orchestrating the organ harvesting death squads. Nieves mocks Max, claiming his powerful allies will protect him. Max coldly responds that those allies won't help him here. The final firefight erupts as Max attempts to escape, but the exit collapses. After taking out the remaining soldiers, Max is knocked down by tremors and is held at gunpoint by Nieves. Moments away from execution, then a gunshot.
Dangerous, friend. I kind of like it. It's growing on me.
Nice to see a happy tourist smiling.
What are you doing here?
I came back
I can see that. Why?
to save you.
Oh, yeah, real hero.
Listen,
Now, come with me, Max. To Brazil. Be a chance to play the fall guy in a plot that my boss's brother's hatching to profit from the selling of human organs. Yeah, it'll be perfect for you.
what are you talking about? I know nothing about human organs, man. Victor and Marcelo are trying to teach Rodrigo a lesson. Get him to loosen the purse strings on the family money. They pressured me into doing it. You wanna die? I came back for you. I did my best. I'm having a kid, Max. I gotta go.
Fuck you.
Sure. Later. Now, let's go. This thing works.
The next chapter opens alongside De Silva, Passos, and Giovanna as Passos and Giovanna prepare to leave São Paulo for good. Passos apologizes for everything, for hiring Max, for the lies, and for dragging him into conspiracy that nearly destroyed them both. Max accepts the apology, not because everything is forgiven, but because there's nothing left to gain by holding on to it. As they part ways, De Silva drops Max off at the UFE headquarters. There's one loose end left. Armando Becker. Max enters the building and surrenders his weapon, only to be immediately handcuffed and escorted into an interrogation room. Once inside, two UFE officers begin beating Max while demanding answers. Max snaps, knocking both men unconscious, grabbing a 1911 and forcing his way out. The situation quickly spirals out of control. Max kills an armed officer in the hallway and pushes deeper into the building. Chaos erupts when he opens the holding cells, triggering a full-scale riot. The station descends into all-out war, and Max cuts through anyone who gets in his way. During the firefight, Max accesses security camera footage from Branco's office. The truth finally revealed. Batchmeyer, Becker's right-hand man, is the one who pulled the trigger and executed Rodrigo. Max confronts Batchmeyer, who sends more men to take him out. Max tears through them, then shoots Batchmeyer in the head, sending him falling off a balcony to his death. Max finally reaches Becker and attacks him, strangling him in rage. Before he can finish the job, Victor Branco appears and holds Max at gunpoint, fully revealing himself as the mastermind behind everything: the kidnapping, the corruption, the death squads, and the cover-ups. Max lashes out, breaking Victor's nose, but Becker recovers long enough to tase Max, allowing both men to escape. When Max comes to, he tries to desperately force his way through the locked doors, but it's too late. Furious and exhausted, Max screams in rage as they disappear. With no other option left, he storms out of the UFE headquarters, determined to finish the job himself.
Rich people love to fly away.
God damn it!
The final mission begins with Wilson De Silva dropping Max off at an airport. Max attempts to quietly slip into the departure gates, but Ufe officers spot him almost immediately. With no other option, Max breaks into a sprint, jumping onto the baggage conveyor belt. He sheds his jacket and sunglasses, rolls up his sleeves, loads his gun, and prepares for the last stand. Ufe officers flood the baggage handling area, and a full-scale gunfight erupts. Max fights his way through the airport's back offices, cutting down waves of officers before ducking into a personnel bathroom to grab painkillers. If the player encountered him earlier, Andreas Delling can briefly be seen hiding in one of the stalls, another loose thread in a world full of corruption. Max pushes into the main terminal, hoping to catch Victor and Becker, but they're already on the move. His pursuit leads him to the airport train station, heavily guarded by Ufe special forces. Max eliminates him and boards the train, only to be attacked again mid-ride. A helicopter swoops overhead as more soldiers jump aboard. Max clears the train just in time, leaping into a parallel line as the original train crashes into a concrete blockade. Reaching the next station, Max slips past the guards and finally makes it to the Bronco hangar. Inside, Becker and Victor are preparing to escape. Victor boards a plane while Becker stays behind and Ufe backup flood the area. Becker is now fully unhinged, charges at Max, armed with a grenade launcher and a riot shield. Of course, Max definitely takes this man out.
This was it. It was almost over. So I guess I'd become what they wanted me to be. A killer. Some rent-a-clown with a gun who puts holes in other bad guys. Well, that's what they had paid for, so in the end, that's what they got. Say what you want about Americans, but we understand capitalism. You buy yourself a product and you get what you pay for. And these chumps had paid for some angry gringo without the sensibilities to know right from wrong. Here I was, about to execute this poor bastard like some dime store angel of death, and I realized they were correct. I wouldn't know right from wrong if one of them was helping the poor and the other was banging my sister.
As Becker's fate is sealed, De Silva radios Max, telling him to get to the plane. Max grabs Becker's grenade launcher, hops into De Silva's car, and the two chase Victor's aircraft down the runway. Max wipes out the remaining Ufe guards and fires at the plane's engine, bringing it crashing down. Victor survives the crash and is immediately arrested by Max and De Silva. Enraged, Max nearly shoots him on the spot, but De Silva steps in, urging Max to let justice handle it. Victor smugly taunts Max, claiming he'll walk free. Max calmly agrees. He will walk, but with a limp. He then stomps on Victor's leg, shattering it in a brutal compound fracture. 1 week later, Max sits at a beach bar drinking soda and smoking, watching the news. Reports that the 55th Ufe Battalion has been disbanded, and Victor Bronco is charged with laundering money from the organ harvesting scheme to fund his political campaign. He has been found hanged in his cell. Authorities are unable to determine whether it was self-deletion or somebody did the job. The bartender shrugs and mutters it's local justice. Max crushes his cigarette, grabs his duffel bag, and walks into the sunset. The screen fades to black as Max Payne 3 comes to a close.
Wait, Max! No! Stop! Max! We have what we need on him now. Let him enjoy a trial and a spell in prison. Let him suffer. Trust me.
You know I'll walk. You'll walk with a lift!
55th Battalion of the City Police's Special Forces Unit, who have been implicated in human trafficking, has been disbanded indefinitely. Meanwhile, Victor Bronco, the politician at the center of the scandal, who is accused of laundering money from the scheme to fund his political campaign for mayor, was yesterday found hanged in his police cell. It's not yet clear whether his death was a suicide or simply retribution for his part in a scandal that has so many families missing loved ones that were kidnapped and killed. City officials say a full investigation
Local
is
justice.
underway. Local residents expressed outrage, saying they have been let down by both law enforcement and city leaders. And now, your local forecast. Boy, it's dark in some places, but it's sunny everywhere else. Over to Marisol with the weather.
At its core, Max Payne 3 isn't just a continuation of Max's story. It's a repositioning of him. In the original Max Payne, everything revolved around personal loss, the murder of his wife and daughter. In Max Payne 2, that grief evolves into obsession, culminating in Mona Sax's death and the unraveling of Project Valhalla. Those games are about Max's life collapsing inward. Max Payne 3 flips that perspective. For the first time in the series, Max isn't the center of the conspiracy. He's on the outside of it. He's no longer a cop. He's not undercover. He's not even chasing justice. He's a bodyguard.
I'd arrived in São Paulo a few weeks before. I was working a protection detail for the kind of people who need protection in a town like this. And what kind of town was this? One where I didn't speak the language and they didn't water down their drinks. So for now, we seemed to get along just fine. Of course, that was about to change.
That shift matters. Max isn't driving the story forward anymore. He's reacting to it. He's hired muscle, a man whose only job is to keep people alive and who repeatedly fails at doing so. That failure isn't accidental. It's the natural consequences of everything that came before. What Max Payne 3 does remarkably well is show us the aftermath of Max Payne 1 and Max Payne 2, not through exposition, but through behavior. This is a Max who never healed. The deaths of his family, Mona Sax, and everyone else he failed to save didn't make him stronger. They hollowed him out. Alcohol and painkillers aren't quirks. They're survival mechanisms. Max isn't chasing redemption here. He's trying to numb himself to keep moving.
Here I was again, with all hell breaking loose around me, standing over another dead girl I had been trying to protect.
I'll give you a minute, buddy.
We'd only been married a short time. By now, she had been dead longer than I knew her. I still hadn't really forgiven myself for the Mona business, but I knew that was just grief, the insanity that comes with losing the life you had built. Michelle, I missed her with every part of my being. I hated the world for not killing me with her, and I hated myself for allowing this to happen to her and our little girl. But I knew I had to leave town.
In earlier games, Max fought because he had nothing left to lose. In Max Payne 3, he fights because he doesn't care whether he lives or dies. That's a crucial distinction. It's easy to look at Max Payne 3 and say it feels like a spin-off in many ways. The setting is different, the structure is different, the tone is louder, harsher, and more cinematic. This isn't noir in quiet New York alleyways or Jersey suburbs. It's chaos in the streets of Brazil. But the DNA is still there. Max's narration, the fatalism, the self-loathing, the inevitability of failure, it's all still there. What changed isn't the character, it's the frame around him. One of the best ways to understand Max Payne 3 is to think of it like a low-budget action movie that accidentally found emotional depth. The story moves from Jersey and New York to places tied to Max's past, to São Paulo, a city that feels foreign, overwhelming, and hostile. That geographical shift mirrors Max's internal state. He doesn't belong here. He's out of place, and the game leans into that discomfort. Explosions, gunfights, chases, crowds, it all fits Max's character.
Jesus Christ, these bastards weren't playing games. These were the same paramilitary cops I had seen executing fools after the failed kidnapping at the party. Nasty business. If these were the guys De Silva was worried about, maybe he had a point. Yes, this was definitely them. Jesus Christ, these bastards made the NYPD look like the Hare Krishnas.
Everything is louder, messier, less controlled, just like Max. Yet beneath all that spectacle, the same things remain: corruption, exploitation, and people using Max as a weapon. The only difference is that this time, Max sees it clearly and it doesn't stop him. Making Max a bodyguard is one of the smartest narrative decisions in the series. As a cop, he saw justice. As a vigilante, he sought revenge. As a bodyguard, he seeks nothing. That emptiness allows the game to explore a new angle. What happens when Max's violence serves the wrong people?
Put the guns down! Let the girls go. No one needs to die, asshole. Tomar no cu, seu gringo de merda. Vou matar sim. Don't you kill her! Don't you? Okay.
Every death hits harder because Max isn't trying to solve a mystery anymore. He's trying and failing to protect others from the same fate he could not escape. One thing Max Payne 3 understands better than it gets credit for is how it uses cutscenes as thematic punctuation. They aren't there just to move the plot along. They're there to remind you who Max is and who he's becoming. Very different than the still comic images we were reminded from back in the day. But this one right here fits in this modern era of what Max Payne was trying to be.
I was a mess. Rodrigo Branco was dead. Fabiana was held hostage. I had no idea who was behind any of this. I felt like a fool. I was a sweaty, gray-haired mess. This place was gonna kill me, too. I could see that now. I decided that I was gonna die sober, not drunk. At least then I would see who shot me. It was time to take back control from whoever was out to get me. And if I didn't flush them out, at least my midlife crisis would confuse them enough so they did something stupid. It was the only hope I had. I knew I wasn't thinking straight. I'd been drinking and popping painkillers for years. I had a liver like a French goose and skin like red leather. Well, it wasn't perfect. In fact, it wasn't much good at all, but it was gonna have to do. At least I was facing in the right direction.
Max shaving his head isn't reinvention, it's resignation. By the end of the game, Max doesn't win. He survives. And in a series built on loss, survival is the closest thing to closure he's ever going to get. Max Payne 3 isn't trying to be Max Payne 1 or even Max Payne 2. It's asking a different question. What does Max Payne look like after the story is over? And the answer is uncomfortable but honest. He's older. He's broken. He's still dangerous. And it shows you should never poke a man who has nothing to lose. And somehow, he is still Max Payne. And that's where Max Payne 3 does something quietly powerful. For the first time in the series, Max chooses not to be the center of someone else's tragedy. Throughout the game, Max repeatedly pushes Passos towards something he himself never had, a future. Even after discovering Passos' involvement, however partial, in the Bronco conspiracy, Max still ensures that Passo and Giovanna escape São Paulo alive. He doesn't drag them down with him. He doesn't demand repayment. He just lets them go.
Well, buddy, that's it.
Where you guys gonna go?
I don't know, maybe back to New York, maybe down to Argentina. Giovanna has family in Salvador. Maybe we'll just stay there.
Yeah, I got business to take care of.
I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I know it was very wrong.
It's all right, it's done. And hey, I'm having myself a fun old time. Maybe this is how things had to be. Figure I might as well die in the sunshine as die in the snow.
Look, I'm sorry I'm leaving. I got a kid coming. You know how it is.
I know how that is.
You know, I almost didn't say goodbye to you. I said to myself, maybe this guy will put a bullet in me.
Maybe I will. But not right now.
Thank you. Try to look after yourself, Max, huh? Life is worth living.
If you say so, pal.
That moment matters because it represents growth we've never seen from Max before. In Max Payne, Max's entire existence is defined by loss. In the second game, love is temporary and survival always comes at a cost. But here, he recognizes the pattern and actively breaks it. Max knows what it's like to lose a family, so he makes sure no one else suffers that same fate. This isn't redemption in the traditional sense. Max doesn't fix the world. He does not absolve himself, but he prevents the cycle from repeating, and that's as close to healing as Max Payne ever gets. Max Payne 3 also broadens his scope by leaning heavily into politics and class division, making it the most socially conscious entry in the series. The Bronco conspiracy isn't just about crime. It's about power protecting itself. Rodrigo Bronco represents old money, tightly controlled wealth, and quiet influence. Victor Bronco represents ambition, public image, and political manipulation. Becker and Uffe exist to enforce that power violently when it's threatened. This is a world where justice doesn't fail. It was never invited in. Max moves between extremes of the system. One moment he's guarding Elise at a penthouse party and nightclubs surrounded by politicians, celebrities, and money. The next, he's knee-deep in favelas where civilians are executed or harvested for profit. The contrast is intentional. The nightclub shows classism through excess and indifference, people partying while violence lurks outside of the elevator doors. The favela shows classism through brutality, where police raids, militia, and death squads treat human lives as disposable. And Max exists in both spaces as an outsider. He doesn't belong with the rich. He doesn't belong with the poor. He belongs in between, witnessing how both sides feed the same system. What makes Max effective in the story is that he isn't trying to expose corruption. He isn't fighting for reform. He's simply too broken to ignore what he sees.
Who wants to take a shot? You see what this is? Come on, anybody? Want to be a hero? I got nothing to lose. Let's do it.
Que porra que tá acontecendo aqui?
Senor Neves.
What the fuck is your problem, man?
My problem? My problem? Wanna know what my problem is? You're turning humans into glue. That's what my fucking problem is!
I don't know what you're talking about, American. All I know is what I hear about you. You bodyguard for the Brancos. They are all dead. You help the poor. Today, many of them dead. You are a proper American hero.
At least I fucking tried.
Well done with your effort. The whole city is grateful. The great American savior of the poor.
That's right.
You think you made any difference? You think stopping this legitimate business venture is helping anyone?
Legitimate? You're stealing people's organs!
We pay for everything! We have the record!
Oh, so people can sell their livers? Their hearts? Their eyeballs? You're insane, you sick fuck!
We kept people safe in the city! Decent people! Safe! I know a lot of powerful people.
Well, your powerful people aren't gonna help you out of this one, buddy.
In Brazil, Max isn't the hero. He's a symptom, an imported enforcer dragged into a machine that chews up people at every level. The difference is Max survives long enough to see the truth clearly, and once he does, he chooses one thing: not power, not justice, not revenge, but distance. By the end of Max Payne 3, Max doesn't stay to rebuild. He doesn't reclaim his identity. He just leaves.
Of the City Police's Special Forces Unit, who have been implicated in human trafficking, has been disbanded indefinitely. Meanwhile, Victor Bronco, the politician at the center of the scandal, who is accused of laundering money from the scheme to fund his political campaign for mayor, was yesterday found hanged in his police cell. It's not yet clear whether his death was a suicide or simply retribution for his part in a scandal that has so many families missing loved ones that were kidnapped and killed. City officials say a full investigation
Local
is
justice.
underway. Local residents expressed outrage, saying they have been let down by both law enforcement and city leaders. And now, your local forecast. Boy, it's dark in some places, but it's sunny everywhere else. Over to Marisol with the weather.
At a mechanical level, Max Payne 3 is immediately recognizable, but it's also unmistakably different. This is a third-person shooter built around style, precision, and cinematic violence. Yet Rockstar retools nearly every system to fit a more grounded, modern action framework. The result is a game that feels like a reimagining rather than a straight continuation, one that borrows heavily from Rockstar's own design philosophy while preserving the core identity of Max Payne. What remains intact is the foundation. Gunfights are still at the heart of the experience, bullet time still defines the rhythm, and Max Payne is still at his best when everything slows down and chaos becomes clarity. Bullet time returns, but has been significantly expanded. Slow motion now showcases far more environmental detail, flying bullet casings, shattering glass, debris reacting in real time, and enemies collapsing dynamically depending on where they're hit. The classic bullet time cam also returns, punctuating combat with cinematic finishing shots. New to the series is the environmental bullet time, where the game automatically slows during scripted moments, giving players a split second to react without manually triggering the ability. It's a subtle change, but one that keeps the combat flowing smoothly without putting control away from the player. Shot dodging has also improved. Max reacts more naturally to the environment, colliding with objects, sliding across surfaces, and falling with realistic weight as well as rolling. That realism comes with a cost though. Once Max hits the ground, he's vulnerable. Players now have to plan shot dodges carefully, ideally leaping towards cover and using them to clean up the final enemies in a room rather than diving blindly into danger. One of the biggest additions is Last Man Standing. When Max's health is fully depleted, assuming he has ammo and at least one painkiller, time automatically slows and Max is given one final chance to take out the enemy who downed him. If successful, a painkiller is consumed and Max survives, though his bullet time meter is completely depleted. It's a brilliant mechanic that reinforces the series' identity. Survival doesn't come from health regeneration alone. It comes from precision, awareness, and staying calm under pressure. It also makes every mistake feel earned rather than cheap. For the first time in the series, Max Payne 3 introduces a cover system similar to GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption. Max can take cover behind walls, pillars, and objects, peeking out to return fire or blind firing when needed. Importantly, Rockstar designed cover as an option, not a requirement. Players can still play aggressively, diving through rooms, chaining shot dodges, and pushing forward non-stop. But the presence of cover fundamentally changes the pacing, making combat more deliberate and tactical than in previous entries. The game's extensive destructible environments further reinforce the system. Cover doesn't last forever. Objects splinter, walls chip away, and safe positions gradually disappear, forcing players to keep moving. Weapon handling is deeper and more strategic than before. Max can only carry 3 weapons at a time, 2 single-handed firearms and 1 two-handed weapon. Dual wielding returns but with a twist. Any 2 one-handed weapons can be parried together, including combinations like a pistol and an SMG. The trade-off is that Max must drop his two-handed weapon, making dual wielding a tactical gamble rather than a default choice. Enemy reactions are more detailed than ever. Different weapons and hit locations produce unique injury and death animations, making firefights feel brutal and physical. Combined with improved physics, shootouts feel heavier, more violent, and less arcade-like than earlier games. Unlike the earlier entries, this game uses a checkpoint-based saving instead of quick saves. This change increases tension but also reduces player control, especially during longer combat encounters. It's one of the more divisive design choices, particularly for fans of the original PC releases. That said, the game excels in flow. Gameplay and cutscenes transition seamlessly, with no visible loading screens, keeping immersion intact from start to finish. The result feels closer to a playable action film than a traditional shooter. Replayability is supported through a variety of unlockables. Golden guns reward exploration and mastery, badges provide gameplay modifiers that encourage different playstyles, and collectible comic pages flesh out the narrative while incentivizing repeat runs. These systems don't radically change the experience, but they add longevity to give completion-focused players meaningful goals beyond the main story. At launch, Max Payne 3 included a robust multiplayer mode with dynamically changing maps, crew-based progression through Rockstar Social Club, and up to 16 players in competitive or cooperative modes. While ambitious and mechanically solid, multiplayer supports for consoles was officially discontinued in September 2021, making it more of a historical footnote today rather than a defining feature. Max Payne 3 doesn't play like the originals, and that's intentional. It trades raw speed for weight, improvisation for structure, and chaos for control. Yet, beneath the modernized systems, bullet time, shot dodging, and Max's violent precision still define the experience. It's different, it's heavier, and it's unmistakably Max Payne. Max Payne 3 launched first on consoles in May 2012, arriving on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in North America on May 15th, and for European regions on May 18th. The Windows version followed shortly after, releasing in North America on May 29th and in European regions on June 1st. A year later, Rockstar would bring the game to Mac OS, releasing worldwide on June 20th, 2013. So we're going to start on the console side. The PS3 and Xbox 360 versions are largely identical in their visual makeup. Both run at a native 1280 by 720 with matching textures, geometry, lighting, and post-processing effects. The PS3 image can appear slightly sharper at times, but the 360 often produces a clearer overall picture thanks to subtly better anti-aliasing, which helps reduce shimmering on foliage and fine edges. Performance follows a similar pattern. Both versions target 30 frames per second, but the 360 uses an effectively unlocked frame rate, allowing it to climb into the mid-30s during lighter scenes. The PS3, meanwhile, is hard capped at 30 frames per second with VSync, delivering a completely tear-free image at the cost of occasional deeper drops during heavy shootouts. A few PS3 cutscenes can also dial back certain effects to maintain stability, but the differences are minor. The Windows version is by far the most technically capable release, with higher resolution textures, improved shadows, enhanced anti-aliasing options, and support for resolutions far beyond 720p. The PC port easily scales with hardware. On a strong system, the game can run at 1080p and above, often surpassing 60 frames per second, especially when using lighter options like FXAA instead of demanding MSAA. Rockstar PC release also includes a wide array of configuration settings, DirectX 11 features, and a flexible performance range that allows the game to run well even on more modest GPUs. All content from the consoles is preserved, including multiplayer, though PC users must rely on Rockstar Social Club integration and configuration files stored in the user directory. The Mac version, which released in 2013, is built from the PC port, but is naturally limited to the Mac hardware of its era. It requires OS X 10.75, a dual-core CPU, 4 gigs of RAM, and around 40 gigs of storage. It retains the full single-player campaign, but multiplayer functionality has been significantly affected, or in practice removed, due to the shutdown of GameSpy services. Additionally, the Mac version is a 32-bit application, meaning it will not run on Mac OS Catalina or later without workarounds. When played on hardware from that time, its performance and visual quality fall somewhere between console versions and a mid-range PC experience. In terms of release order and practicality, console received the game first on May of 2012, PC followed at the end of the month, and OX arrived a year later. Today, the Xbox 360 version has a slight performance advantage. The PS3 version offers a stable, tear-free presentation, and the PC version stands as the definitive way to experience Max Payne 3 with the highest visuals and frame rates. The Mac port is now mostly a legacy release, best suited for older Macs and primarily limited to single player. Upon release, Max Payne 3 was met with generally favorable reviews across the board, earning a strong praise for its presentation, gunplay, and character-driven narrative. Publications like Game Informer awarded it a 9.25 out of 10, calling it a fascinating portrait of a man whose inner turmoil fuels one of the series' strongest stories. Games Radar and The Guardian both gave perfect scores, with Games Radar celebrating its pacing and cinematic action, while The Guardian labeled it a masterpiece of underworld carnality, depravity, and violence. IGN, Destructoid, and Polygon echoed similar enthusiasm, each giving it a 9 out of 10 and highlighting every form of its commentary on class divides its brutal, stylish action design. Not every reviewer was completely sold, though. Outlets like Game Trailers, Eurogamer, and Edge gave it more of a moderate scores in the average range of 7 and 7.6. These critiques often centered around the game's linear structure, difficulty spikes, and mechanical quirks, especially compared to Rockstar's open-world titles. Still, even the lower score ratings acknowledge the strength of its multiplayer and the technical polish of its presentation. Reception in Brazil was particularly nuanced. While many Brazilian critics appreciated Rockstar's attempt to capture their landscape, they also took issue with insecurities from Rio, like geography and slang, to Portuguese lines that sounded like they came straight from Google Translate. Others disliked that Portuguese actors were used to voice natives, creating noticeable accents. Commercially, Max Payne 3 saw a strong but short-lived sales window. The game shipped roughly 3 million units in its first week and sold over 440,000 units in its first month in the US, despite the solid opening. Take-Two described the sales as lower than expected. By May 2013, it had reached 4 million units shipped. Critically, however, the game had no shortage of recognition. Max Payne 3 won Best Animation at the 2012 Inside Gaming Awards and received nominations from major outlets for Best Shooter, Best Action Adventure, Best Original Score, and even Ultimate Game of the Year. James McCaffrey's performance as Max earned a nomination at the Spike VGA Awards, while GameSpot named him both PS3 Game of the Year and Shooter Game of the Year. Even with divided opinions in certain regions and debates about its tonal shift from earlier entries, Max Payne 3 firmly cements itself as a bold, technically exceptional, and often divisive evolution of the series, one whose legacy only continues to grow over time. While critics largely praised Max Payne 3, average players had a far more divided experience. Many longtime fans admired the production value, the grounded storytelling, and the gritty reinvention of Max's character, echoing sentiments similar to professional reviewers. But for a significant portion of players, the transition from Remedy's noir-infused PC roots to Rockstar's more cinematic, cover-driven shooter created real friction. Some players felt the game was polished, but lost what made the old Max Payne games great, pointing out to the heavier emphasis on realism, the removal of the old quick save system, and a difficulty curve that could feel punishing rather than empowering. Others argued the gunplay felt restrictive or overly dependent on cover compared to the more aerobic freedom from the original entries. At the same time, many players loved the direction Rockstar took, calling it the most intense and stylish the series had ever been. User reviews praising the game frequently highlighted the fluid movement system, cinematic presentation, and the way Max's personal failures and addictions fueled the story. To these players, Max Payne 3 captured everything they wanted from a modern third-person shooter while still retaining Max's trademark bullet time identity. Overall, player reception settled into the same contrast reflected in reviews. Most players acknowledge the game's high production quality and strong storytelling, but longtime fans were more likely to critique the mechanical changes, the difficulty balancing, and the shift towards a grittier, more grounded tone. For many, Max Payne 3 was either a bold evolution or a departure from the style that defined the franchise. Going through the Max Payne series this year has genuinely been an experience. Years ago, Max Payne 1, 2, and 3 were just games that collected dust on my PS3 hard drive, installed, ignored, and never really touched. So finally sitting down and playing them all the way through for the channel was something special. For years, I knew of the Max Payne franchise, but I didn't truly know it. And here we are in 2025, on the cusp of 2026, and I finally got to experience it the way it was meant to be experienced. I'll be honest, like most people, it takes me a minute to accept change. When I played the first game and I saw Sam Lake's face, there was something that instantly charming about it. It fit the tone, it fit the character. Then Max Payne 2 came along and Max felt more mature, older, heavier, and his face reflected that growth. But in Max Payne 3, Modeling Max after the late great James McAfee was something I could fully get behind. This version of Max felt real. It felt grounded. It felt like the natural endpoint of everything that came before. And for the game itself, I played the PS3 version, and overall, my experience was fun, though definitely challenging at times. That's nothing new for Max Payne. Nothing is handed to you. Every chapter has to be earned. That said, there were moments where I had to rage quit. While I liked the last man standing mechanic, there were situations where being out of ammo or having the aiming feel off made deaths feel cheap. I also ran into a few technical issues, audio cutting out during dialogue, which was frustrating, especially when trying to analyze a story and catch important details. Still, despite those hiccups, the story held strong. Max Payne 3 feels like a 90s action movie shooter, and that's always been the franchise's DNA. It started with John Woo-inspired gunfights, and here it is, bigger, louder, and more cinematic. While I know many hardcore fans miss the comic panels, and I do too, I also understand that growth sometimes means letting things go. The comics gave the series its charm, and their absence is felt, but the cinematic presentation brought something different to the table. It's bittersweet knowing that Remedy didn't develop this game, and at times you can feel that shift, especially with a drastic move from Jersey to Brazil. It's different, very different, and I had to accept that. But at the end of the day, this is still Max Payne, just with better graphics and a higher budget. So if you've never experienced Max Payne, or if you bounced off it years ago, I genuinely encourage you to give it a shot. There's something special about this franchise. You can experience the entire story today, hear James McAfee's iconic voice, and watch it all come together before the upcoming Max Payne reboot. There's a lot of games I cover on this channel. Some good, some bad, but this one's alright in my book. If you made it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you for tuning in. We're almost at the finish line of the Rockstar Takeover, with Grand Theft Auto 5 coming up, and my end of the year special right around the corner. If you enjoyed this video, giving it a thumbs up really helps others like you find the channel through YouTube's algorithm. And if you want to be here for the final 2 videos dropping this year, hitting that subscribe button and turning on the notification bell will keep you locked in on all of our future uploads. And if you're feeling a little generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. Link is in the description. With that said, this is the Retro Phantom, signing out.